Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. Thanks so much for being here, showing up live for today's class. Super honored that you're taking time out of your day to hang out with me, and I hope that you're going to get a lot out of today's class. So the topic for today's training is how to lose weight, feel great, and prevent or reverse chronic disease with a plant-based diet. Plus, we're going to also be talking about the most common mistakes I hear people make that hold them back from achieving their goals and how you can avoid them. So, where are you from? Type in the chat, say hello. I'm from Cedar Park, Texas, which is near Austin. And you can feel free to use the chat to share your aha moments. I'll be asking you questions as we go along, and I really love participation so I can understand more about you and how I can help. Welcome, everybody. Hi. Hello from Georgia, Columbus, Ohio, Queens, New York, Florida, Pennsylvania, uh, all over. Nelda from Texas, Connecticut, Helen from New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Michigan, a few people from Michigan right in a row, Calgary, Canada, Alberta, Canada, love it, Arkansas, SoCal, more Canadians, hello, a couple more Canadians, Ontario and Vancouver, welcome guys, Houston, Texas, Virginia, South Carolina, some more Canadians, Ontario, Australia, awesome, upstate New York, Louisiana, welcome, everybody. Come on in. Tamila's from West Virginia. Hello, hello. Now, my assistant Sarah will also be helping answer questions in the chat as well, so be sure to say hello to her. If you have questions as we go along, be sure to put them in the separate Q&A box instead of the chat box. The chat goes by really fast and I will definitely miss your question. And I'll be doing a short Q&A at the end. So you can put your question in the Q&A box at any time and it'll be saved for me and I'll try to answer as many questions as I can at the end. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. So just for showing up today live as a thank you, you're going to get a really great resource called the Plant Powered Daily Checklist. And that will be sent automatically to your email about 30 minutes following the conclusion of this class. And this checklist will help you remember the foods that we talk about today that can help you can eat actually unlimited for your best health and weight. And it'll be sent to the email that you registered with for this class. And if you don't see it in your email, first of all, check your spam folder. You know, they always go there first. But if not, send us an email to hello@simplyplantbasedkitchen.com and we'll help you out. Yeah, you're welcome, Jay. So let me introduce myself. I know I may be new to many of you. My name is Kim Murphy, and I'm a certified plant-based health coach. I'm also the founder of Simply Plant-Based Kitchen, where my mission is to help people make whole food plant-based eating simple, easy, and delicious so that you can make it a lifestyle to support your health. And I know how hard it was for me when I first started eating whole food plant-based with difficult recipes that tasted terrible and all the frustrations that I felt. So I started my business to help people like you make it easy and enjoyable so it doesn't end up being another temporary diet. So let me ask you a question and please share in the chat. Why did you join this masterclass today? What have you been struggling with? Maybe a chronic disease like diabetes, high cholesterol, high blood pressure? Are you confused about all the conflicting information out there that, you know, what is the right way to eat to improve your health, lose weight, and keep it off? Are you just tired of feeling like crap all the time? Wish you had more energy, less brain fog, and better mood? Let's see what we got in the chat. Let's see, chronic disease, staying on track, diabetes. Yes, chronic dis-ease. I like that hyphenation, high blood pressure. Julie says, always need help with weight loss. Riva says, cancer 3 times, but feel great now. Love this way of eating. Awesome. Fantastic. Cholesterol, weight, health. Let's see, weight and immunity, consistent whole food plant-based eating, weight loss, severe PCOS, high cholesterol, maintain 100-pound weight loss. Wow. Blood pressure, health, serve and help others. I like that, Cindy. Just better health, chronic disease, need to lose weight, diabetes, neuropathy. Yeah, we're going to be talking a lot about a lot of these things. Yeah, be ready to take notes because hopefully I can answer many of your questions. So in this training, we'll be sharing with you the important details that often get overlooked when it comes to eating a plant-based diet that will really help you improve your health, lose weight, and feel great. And so if you're confused about conflicting information, overwhelmed about how to eat to really achieve your goals, or you're not even sure this will even work for you, then get ready to take those notes. Now, I'm also going to be giving away an extra bonus at the end of this class called my Ultimate Plant-Powered Cooking Bundle that has 15 bonus cooking demos like vegan fettuccine alfredo, pumpkin spice oatmeal cookies, 1 pot vegan American goulash, roasted veggie fajitas, broccoli cheese casserole, cheesy vegan scallop potatoes, and more. This is actually a $597 value, and if you stick around until the end of class, you'll learn how you can get access to this extra bonus. So let me tell you a little bit about my why I started eating whole food plant-based, quit my teaching job of 17 years, and started my business, Simply Plant-Based Kitchen. And that's because of my dad. My dad was such a big influence on my life. Many dads are for their daughters. And growing up, I didn't think that my dad ate that poorly. He was actually a farmer and we had a garden. But even so, my dad still developed heart disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, had a quadruple bypass, prostate cancer, and the worst was the Alzheimer's the last 10 years of his life. And looking back, knowing what I know now, he was absolutely eating the standard American diet. You know, the healthy version, grilled or baked chicken, white rice, small side of veggies, lots of dairy. And he passed away from a stroke just days after his birthday in April 2018. So this was a big wake-up call for my life. I was at such a loss. I was turning 40. I just lost my dad's Alzheimer's. And I was overweight, tired, and had joint pain and brain fog. And I knew if I didn't make a major change, I was headed right down the same path. And I didn't want to put my kids through that. And I didn't want to miss out on their lives either. And I knew a plant-based diet was what I needed to do, but I was still hesitant because I had actually tried it before, but I couldn't keep it going. It actually took me several years after losing my dad to make the change. And I went back to the science and read everything I could get my hands on to, figure out what was the best way to eat for my health. I read the books of all the great whole food plant-based doctors like Dr. Greger, Dr. Ornish, Dr. T. Colin Campbell, Dr. Esselstyn, Dr. Furman, Dr. Barnard, so many others. And this really strengthened my resolve to try again and make it my new lifestyle. And this is my before and after. This is the before picture was taken the week of my dad's funeral out on our farm. And I was wearing my muumuu dress, trying to hide behind my kids because I was just so embarrassed by how I looked in photos. And at this point, what was bothering me the most was now my face was puffy, and you cannot hide your face in pictures. So in January 2018, I recommitted to eating whole food plant-based, but this time I decided to have a different mindset, one of progress, not perfection, and finding and creating simple and easy recipes that didn't take a ton of time. And in just 3 months, I'd lost 20 pounds and 17 inches just by filling my body with whole plants. And not only that, but the brain fog I had been experiencing lifted in just a couple weeks, and I had more energy. I felt happier and lighter. My mood improved. My cravings disappeared, and even my joints stopped hurting. And I was like, this is amazing. I want to share this with everyone I possibly can. So I did. I started my business, Simply Plant-Based Kitchen. I got my plant-based nutrition certificate from eCornell and the T. Colin Campbell Center of Nutrition Studies, and also my health coaching certification from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, so that I could make sure I was sharing all the best science and information to help you. And I've been really blessed to have been featured on many different websites and podcasts like Chef AJ Live, Forks Over Knives, and The Real Truth About Health Summit, and many more. And I've also published a book, Plant Powered, and it's been an Amazon bestseller in the vegan diet category since it was published. So before I talk about plant-based diets, I want to make sure everybody's on the same page with what's wrong with animal-based diets. So our standard American diet, also known as SAD, because it is sad, is causing an explosion in chronic diseases. Most Americans and other westernized countries get 90% of their calories from animal products, processed foods, and dairy. and only about 10% come from whole vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, nuts, and seeds. This is including French fries. So if you take French fries out, that's only 5% of calories from whole plants. And we wonder why we're so sick, right? Because of this, we have seen a huge increase in chronic diseases that were practically unheard of 100 years ago. Diseases like cancer, heart disease, dementia, autoimmune disorders, allergies, type 2 diabetes, and so many more are just increasing exponentially. We are literally eating ourselves to death. So you may be wondering, what is so wrong with meat? There's been a lot of research over the recent and past decades that show a strong connection between eating animal products and an increase in many chronic diseases. In the Nurses' Health Study, those who ate the most red and processed meats increased their risk of type 2 diabetes by 62%. And for every additional serving daily, it increased by 46%. And a 2023 study showed that both red and white meat both increase the risk of cardiovascular disease, meaning white meat really isn't a better choice. And one serving daily of processed meat is associated with a 44% increase of dementia and a 52% increased risk of Alzheimer's, just one serving daily. And it's because meat also comes with lots of extra baggage. Just because it has protein doesn't mean that the package it comes in is healthy. Meat has saturated fats and cholesterol. We don't actually need to eat cholesterol. Our body actually makes all that we need. And high amounts of saturated fats in the diet can also increase cholesterol levels. Then there's TMAOs, or trimethylamine N oxides, and they're produced in the gut when we eat animal protein. These TMAOs are linked to heart disease, cancer, and stroke. Now, they've studied the guts of vegans, and they do not produce these TMAOs. Now, there are two types of iron. Heme iron is the form of iron that comes from animal products, and non-heme iron comes from plants. And according to a 2015 study published in the Journal of Nutrition, they showed that heme iron, which is only found in meat, increased the risk of heart disease by 60%. Yet non-heme iron found in vegetables showed no increased risk of disease. It was also found to be dose responsive, so meaning the more meat you eat, the higher the risk, and the less you eat, the lower the risk. Now, I know everybody tries to sell us this idea that we need more and more and more protein, and we'll definitely be digging into exactly how much you need in a few minutes, but does the type of protein eat affect cancer? Do those eating meat have a higher risk of cancer? So there's a hormone called IGF-1, or insulin-like growth factor. And it's good when you're a child and growing, but when you're an adult, IGF-1 makes everything grow, including cancer cells. So we don't want too much IGF-1 when we're a full-grown adult. Now, studies show that increased IGF-1 levels are associated with an increased risk of cancer. And it turns out that the higher IGF-1 levels are associated with higher intakes of animal protein, but plant protein is associated with lower levels of IGF-1. There was another study showing that 14 years on a plant-based diet cut IGF-1 levels in half. And compared to meat eaters and even vegetarians, only the vegans had the significantly lower levels of IGF-1. Now, this may be one of the reasons that a plant-based diet is associated with a lower risk of cancer. There was also the China study done by Dr. T. Colin Campbell, and showed that he could literally turn cancer on and off. He turned cancer on with animal protein and turned it off with plant protein. And the animal protein he used in the study was casein, which is the main protein in dairy. Now, in the China study, cancer did not grow even in the presence of a strong carcinogen when he used plant protein. So it begs the question, what's more important, the carcinogen or the type of protein when it comes to causing cancer cells to grow and proliferate? Now, lastly, processed meats are the worst. Did you know that they're actually designated a group 1 carcinogen by the World Health Organization? That's right next to cigarettes and asbestos because there is such a strong link to cancer. Foods like deli meats, bacon, jerky, sausage, hot dogs, canned meats. Just one serving daily can increase your risk of colon cancer by 18%. And even just a half a serving daily was associated with a 21% increase in breast cancer. You know, before I went plant-based, I would sometimes eat at a popular sub-like chain. And I thought I was making a healthy choice by getting a turkey sandwich on wheat bread with a few vegetables. And it makes me so mad that this information is not more mainstream and on the evening news because I have more and more friends and relatives being diagnosed with breast cancer all the time. And you may say, but what about fish? Isn't that healthy? How will I get my healthy fats and omega 3s? Well, it's still an animal protein that's going to increase IGF-1 more than plant protein, has saturated fat, has cholesterol. And not only that, fish is highly polluted these days with mercury and dioxins, PCBs, and even microplastics because our oceans are so polluted. Now, this includes fresh caught and farm raised. One day we hear eggs are good, and the next we hear eggs are bad. You know what their slogan is, right? The incredible edible egg. But is it incredibly healthy or incredibly not? Well, eggs are little cholesterol bombs at around 187 milligrams for a large egg. And again, we don't need to eat cholesterol because our body and our liver makes all that we need. In an updated meta-analysis in 2022 from research in the publication Circulation, they showed that eating eggs increases risk of dying from heart disease, and it only takes one egg per day to significantly increase that risk. Now, the study also showed that both higher blood and dietary cholesterol levels were associated with an increased risk of death from heart disease. Now, does dairy actually do a body good? It's odd that, we're the only species to drink milk or eat products made from other species' milk. And milk really is the perfect food for a baby calf. It's an amazing fluid that turns a 65-pound calf into a 500-pound cow in just a year. And the dairy industry likes to promote milk and cheese and yogurt for its protein content, but we don't need that much. In fact, human breast milk is the lowest of any mammal at around 4 to 6% protein, and that's for a very fast-growing baby. And like Dr. Michael Klaper says, the human body has no more need for cow's milk than it does for dog's milk, horse's milk, or giraffe's milk. But what about the claim that dairy makes strong bones? Now, the dairy industry says that since dairy milk has calcium and calcium makes strong bones, then drinking milk should make strong bones. I mean, it makes sense. However, there's been a lot of studies with this, and Harvard did a study following women showing that drinking milk did not protect against osteoporosis or bone fractures. In fact, those who drank milk 2 times a day or more had higher incidence of hip fracture than those who rarely drank milk. Then there was another study that showed that the more milk men consumed as teenage boys, the more fractures they had as adults. And studies actually show that the countries with the highest fruit and vegetable intake had the lowest risk of osteoporosis. There was a longitudinal study in 2016 published in the Journal of Bone and Mineral Research, and researchers found a high intake of calcium from dairy products didn't offer protection from bone fractures, while a lower intake of calcium from plant-derived foods was protective. Lower calcium intakes sourced from plants were found to be the most protective, with no added benefits for consuming above that range. And the authors concluded a plant-based diet may be associated with lower requirements for calcium intake for bone health compared with westernized diets. Now, earlier I talked about Dr. T. Colin Campbell's study of turning cancer on and off by using the main protein in dairy, casein. But is that the only connection between dairy and cancer? And actually, no, because hormones can have an impact on cancer risk, and the hormone estrogen has a central role in endometrial cancer. Now, most of our exposure to hormones actually comes from dairy products, especially estrogen. And Harvard did a study of tens of thousands of women and found that those who consumed more dairy had a significantly higher rate of endometrial cancer in postmenopausal women. And this is because all food of animal origin contains hormones. They produce them naturally in their body, just like we humans do. And 3/4 of our consumption of female sex hormones actually come from dairy, and the rest is split evenly between eggs, meat, and fish. So how do we get exposed to so much estrogen from dairy? Well, it's because they keep the dairy cows constantly pregnant or lactating to produce the most amount of milk. Since they're pregnant or lactating, they produce significant amounts of estrogen and progesterone, both of which end up in the milk. estrogen is concentrated even more when we make dairy products like cheese and butter. And this is all from natural hormones, not additives. It's why food manufacturers can't put hormone free on any dairy or meat labels. They can only say no added hormones. And then now this goes for organic or grass fed as well. Organic or not, animals produce hormones because they're animals, just like we produce our own hormones. Now, dairy is also associated with an increased risk of breast cancer as well as reduced survival rates. A study by the National Cancer Institute in 2017 found that women eating the most American cheddar and cream cheeses had a 53% higher risk for breast cancer. And another study by the Life After Cancer Epidemiology showed that women who were already diagnosed with breast cancer that were consuming one or more high-fat dairy products a day had a 49% increased risk of dying from breast cancer than those consuming less than 1/2 serving daily. But it's not just about the ladies. I know we have some men joining us, and this is important for you as well. Higher intakes of dairy is also associated with prostate cancer and prostate cancer mortality. The Physicians Health Study with 21,660 participants and tracked for 28 years saw greater prostate cancer risk of those consuming the most dairy compared to those who consume the least. And the high group was eating 2.5 or more servings daily, and the lowest had a half serving or less daily. There was also a study in the International Journal of Cancer that showed a 141% increased risk of dying from prostate cancer for those consuming 3 or more servings of dairy daily compared to those eating less than 1 serving daily. So let me take a little pause and ask you, what do you think is more important? Do you believe it's more important when it comes to chronic diseases like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, cancer, dementia? Do you believe your genes play a bigger role, or does it have to do more with your lifestyle choices, what you eat, exercise, not smoking, getting enough sleep, stress management? Do you believe because your parents or grandparents had certain chronic diseases that you will most likely get them? Or do you believe you have more control with your own choices? See a lot of people saying lifestyle. Riva says lifestyle, absolutely. Both, but lifestyle has a major role. Leanne says lifestyle over genetics. Yeah, lots of people saying lifestyle, some people saying both. Pat says lifestyle is more important. So the correct answer is lifestyle. Yeah, you guys knocked it out of the park. And in fact, many studies show that it's actually as high as 90% preventable. Imagine that. And in many cases, reversible. Diseases like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, cancer, Alzheimer's, obesity, and more. And it's the basics. A healthy diet centered around whole plants, movement, getting enough sleep, stress management, and not smoking. We've all been told these things, but most of us don't understand quite how powerful they are. But there's a fascinating new area of scientific research called epigenetics, and it's how our lifestyle and our environment can turn on and off our genes. So we may have the genes for heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes, autoimmune disorders, but it doesn't mean that they will be turned on. We can turn off the disease-causing genes and turn on the health-promoting genes through our lifestyle, with our diet being one of the biggest factors. I love this quote. Genes load the gun, but diet and lifestyle pulls the trigger. That means 90% of the power is in your hands. And even if you do have some gene that predisposes you to a certain chronic disease, does not mean that you will get it, and that your diet and lifestyle has a lot to do with that. We can turn on healthy genes on by eating healthy whole plants, or we can turn on our disease-causing genes by eating animal products and processed foods. So ask yourself, which genes do you want to turn on today? So let's talk more about the power of plants. So 10% of people over the age of 65 and 50% over the age of 85 have some form of dementia, with the most common type being Alzheimer's. And a study using a plant-based diet called the MIND diet, and that's a diet that's rich in fruits and grains, beans, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, and that limits the intake of meat, dairy, and processed foods, showed a 53% reduction in risk for Alzheimer's disease. And they showed that they had the cognitive function similar to someone that was 7.5 years younger. Now, what about heart disease? What about the cost of it? Are any of you paying for cholesterol or blood pressure medications right now? What are your out-of-pocket expenses every month? The average out-of-pocket expenses in 2020 was over $5,500 a year. That's almost $500 a month. Now, it's probably even higher now because of inflation. Yet, heart disease can be reversed on a plant-based diet and is very well documented. Has your cardiologist told you that? So Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn wrote his book, How to Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, and has done multiple studies showing actual reversal of the heart disease, arteries opening back up, improved endothelial function, lowered cholesterol, lower blood pressure, and angina symptoms disappearing. He took patients with major heart disease who medical science had said they could no longer help them. They were basically told to go home and wait to die. And he reversed their heart disease with a whole food plant-based diet. Now, another lifestyle medicine program is Dr. Dean Ornish's program for reversing heart disease. And his program also includes a low-fat, whole food, plant-based diet, stress reduction, exercise, and actively engaging in supportive relationships. Now, the cost of the Ornish program is currently around $9,500, but it actually helps to reverse the actual disease. A quadruple bypass, on the other hand, costs around $50,000 to $70,000, but does nothing to address the underlying cause. After bypass surgery, many still have angina or have to go undergo more procedures like stents and repeat bypass surgeries in the future, not to mention take the pills for the rest of their lives. And all this adds up for more money the insurance company pays, that you pay, out-of-pocket expenses, co-pays, deductibles, lost wages, not to mention the continued pain, worry, and stress from the progressively worsening heart disease. Now, this is another great quote from Dr. Kim Williams, and he said there are two types of cardiologists, vegans and those who haven't read the data. So Dr. Kim Williams is a highly esteemed cardiologist who lowered his own cholesterol by removing dairy and animal protein from his diet. He is also the former president of the American College of Cardiology. Now, many major health organizations now recognize and support a plant-based diet for all life stages. The American Academy of Pediatrics, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, the British Dietetic Association, the Canadian Pediatric Society, the Italian Society for Human Nutrition, and the Australian Dietary Guidelines all support plant-based diets as not only safe, but they also provide many health advantages. The American College Board of Lifestyle Medicine uses a plant-based diet as a major tenet of disease reversal. For the treatment, reversal, and prevention of lifestyle-related chronic disease, the ACLM recommends an eating plan based predominantly on a variety of minimally processed vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, and nuts and seeds. But what is the right plant-based diet? Because there are many variations and they are not created equal. It really depends on what your goals are. There's probably three main plant-based diets you've heard of: vegetarian, vegan, and maybe whole food plant-based. Now, are there any vegetarians here with us? So a vegetarian is definitely a step up from eating beef, chicken, or pork, but many still consume dairy, especially cheese. And this is where many struggle with health because of all the calorie-dense cheese and health effects from all that saturated fat. Some vegetarians even eat eggs or fish. And eggs are those little cholesterol bombs at around 187 milligrams for just one egg, and fish, as we've learned, is highly polluted. And many vegetarians also consume processed foods like highly refined junk food, white flour, sugar, white bread, and oils. Yeah, I see a few people saying I'm a vegetarian, pescatarian, vegetarian working on becoming vegan. Yep. Now, what about vegans? Anybody here a vegan? I saw a couple people say vegan already. Yep, vegan, 95% vegan. Age 81 and no health problems. Good for you. Yes, vegan. So vegans definitely take it a step further. Don't eat any meat, dairy, eggs, or fish, but many still do consume a lot of processed foods like vegan fake meats, the vegan cheese, white flour, sugar, white bread, and oil. Now, most vegans got started for ethical reasons and don't use any products made from or tested on animals like leather. That's awesome. But depending on the balance of foods in a vegan diet, they may be more of a junk food vegan if they don't consume very many whole plant foods. And this may not be much different from the standard American diet as well. Lastly, there's whole food plant-based, also known as WFPB, which really focuses on eating the majority of calories from the most nutrient-dense foods. And a whole food plant-based diet includes whole plants, minimally processed, like vegetables, legumes, which are beans, lentils, peas, and soy, fruit, whole grains, and even nuts and seeds. And they avoid or limit meat, dairy, fish, eggs, or animal products. And they also avoid or limit processed foods like oil, sugar, and sodium. And I really like this quote by Dr. Michael Greger, nothing bad added and nothing good taken away. And this really speaks to the minimally processed aspect of whole food plant-based eating. So WFPB, or whole food plant-based, is the gold standard for health and longevity. Why? Well, for starters, whole plants contain so many vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, and antioxidants, there's no way they could ever be put into a pill. Whole plants contain lots of fiber, which most Americans don't get near enough of, and plenty of protein. Whole plants are anti-inflammatory, while animal and processed foods are pro-inflammatory. These foods fill you up, keep you full, so you don't have crazy cravings all day long. And the blue zones are areas in the world where the highest concentration of centenarians per capita were, and Dan Buettner from the National Geographic went out and studied them. Places like Okinawa, Sardinia, Italy, Ikaria, Greece, Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica, and we even have one here in the US in Loma Linda, California, where a large population of Seventh-day Adventists live. Now, what did these blue zones all have in common? Well, the biggest thing was that they were all 90 to 95% whole food plant-based. These people were living into their 90s and hundreds and beyond with such vitality and clear-mindedness, no chronic diseases, no dementia, still independent and mobile and loving life. So if you're worried about having to go 100% right away, don't worry about perfection. Could you at least do 90% whole food plant-based like the blue zones? It's basically flipping the script from the standard American diet from 90% calories from animal products and processed foods to instead 90% whole plants. And I think it's interesting that thousands of years ago, people knew the answer to health even back then. We just didn't listen or forgot. Let food be thy medicine and thy medicine be thy food is a quote from Hippocrates, who's considered the father of modern medicine. And here we are rediscovering what people knew thousands of years ago, and now we're just proving it with science. So who wants to know the secret to losing weight without hunger, portion control, or calorie counting? Anybody? Yes, Rebecca says. Yes, me. Tanya says, yes, definitely, so much, definitely, of course. Yes, indeed. So it's about the calorie and nutrient density of foods. To give you an idea of what calorie and nutrient density looks like, this is a great graphic from the Forks Over Knives website. The stomach can hold around 4 cups of foods. So what are you going to fill it with? A larger volume of whole plants will activate your stretch receptors, and you get tons of micronutrients that activate the nutrient receptors. So this helps to turn down hunger and keep it down. But not only that, but whole plant foods are nutrient dense and calorie poor, meaning you can eat more volume of food with less calories, keeping you satiated. You can see that oil on the left takes up a tiny space in the stomach, not filling you up. Cheese is very similar, and meat only fills you up a little bit more. But the vegetables, fruit, potatoes, whole grains, and beans fill your stomach up, keeping you satisfied, satiated, and leaner. There's no calorie counting or portion control required for this way of eating because your hunger and stomach will tell you when to stop. You actually get to listen to your body and eat freely. What a concept. So let's talk a little bit more about fiber. Does anyone here struggle with constipation? Don't be embarrassed to admit it. It is very, very common. It's kind of the secret that no one talks about, but most people struggle with. Laura says, yes. Patricia, yes. Gina, yes. Yeah. So fiber has so many magical powers, and I find it fascinating. First of all, fiber only comes from whole plants. Not only does fiber help things keep moving, hello, no constipation, but it also lowers the risk of many cancers, and not just colon, but also GI, breast, endometrial, ovarian, prostate, and pancreatic cancer. It's because fiber is like your intestine vacuum cleaner. It sucks up a lot of the toxins, cholesterol, even excess hormones like estrogen, which is why it's associated with these lower risk factors. Now, when it comes to weight loss, fiber is your best friend. Fiber is such an important part of our digestive process. First of all, it adds bulk to the food to stretch those stomach receptors to tell you you've eaten enough. Second, it slows the digestive process to keep you full longer and your blood sugar steady. Third, it activates something called the ileal brake that is at the end of the small intestines. And when undigested calories are detected at the ileum, then it tells your brain you don't need to eat yet. Fourth, fiber feeds our good gut bacteria, which are important for so many health reasons, but also for the production of short chain fatty acids, which stimulate the production of leptin, the appetite suppressant hormone. And by the way, these short chain fatty acids are also some of the most anti inflammatory compounds on the planet. And lastly, if that wasn't enough, fiber also binds to fat and carbs, pulling them out of your body when you go to the bathroom so you don't even absorb all the calories. Some estimates are as high as 10 to 15% of calories. That's huge. And this is why calories in minus calories burned, aka calorie counting, doesn't really work all the time because it's got more to do with what's actually absorbed, and fiber is a big part of that. Now, if you want to count something, count fiber, because most Americans get a paltry amount of fiber, only 14 grams a day. But the recommended amount is 25 for women and 38 for men, and that's still low. On a whole food plant-based diet, you can easily get over 50 grams of fiber a day. And in fact, scientists have studied paleo poo and they were eating over 100 grams of fiber daily. So clearly our bodies were designed to get a lot more fiber. And this is one of the reasons why if you're eating a vegan diet that's filled with a lot of processed foods and not whole plants, you might not be able to achieve your best health or achieve your ideal weight because we need to get enough fiber and nutrients from whole plants to support all these complicated processes in our body. So let's talk about these weight loss drugs that are being pushed so hard these days. Like every commercial on the radio and TV, you can't get away from it. So Ozempic, Wegovy, these other semaglutide medications, they mimic our body's GLP-1 or glucagon-like peptide 1. And GLP-1 plays a role in regulating appetite, digestion, and blood sugar. So when you feel full after a meal, it's GLP-1 telling your brain you've had enough to eat. But these weight loss drugs trick our brain into thinking we are making more GLP-1. And that's why you lose your appetite, even if you haven't eaten very much. But these weight loss drugs have a lot of side effects like nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, may even cause thyroid cancer. But not only that, when you're losing weight on Ozempic and other weight loss drugs, mostly muscle mass that you're losing. So when people stop using the drug, they go back to eating the way they did before, and they gain back all that weight and are worse off because they don't gain back that muscle. They gain back more fat. And so once you lose that muscle and you gain back fat, it actually makes it harder to lose weight after that. Now, are there some natural ways to boost GLP-1 so that you can feel full faster and consume less calories? Yes. And guess what? It's another win for fiber from whole plants. And another little tip to boost GLP-1, chewing. So yes, the more you chew your food, the more GLP-1 you produce, and the study participants ate less naturally. But is there anything missing by only eating plants? Are you worried about being deficient in any areas? So vitamin B12 is the only nutrient not found in plants, but it doesn't actually come from animals either. Animals are just the middleman or middle cow. It actually comes from bacteria in the dirt that the animals eat, and then it gets stored in their tissues, which omnivores then eat. Back in our Paleolithic days, we probably got enough B12 from the dirt left on our fruits and vegetables and from drinking stream water. But we clean our water and wash our food so thoroughly these days that we don't get enough of it. And this is a good thing because, like Dr. Michael Greger says, we also don't get cholera or dysentery. However, most of the meat sold comes from factory farms, and a lot of those animals are deficient in vitamin B12 as well. So lots of omnivores aren't getting enough either by eating eggs and meat. And vitamin B12 has many important functions in the body, including your nervous system, metabolism, and red blood cells, and being deficient can have life-threatening consequences. Now, studies show that vitamin B12 is also very important in keeping homocysteine levels low to reduce stroke risk. In one study, vegetarians who didn't supplement with vitamin B12 had a higher risk of stroke than meat eaters. So, while all other markers of chronic disease go down on a plant based diet, if you don't get adequate B12, then your risk of stroke can actually increase. Now, there are a few foods that are high in vitamin B12, but they're mostly fortified. And without supplementation, you're unlikely to be getting enough B12 on a plant based diet. So, Dr. Michael Greger recommends 2,000 micrograms a week or 50 micrograms a day of cyanocobalamin of a chewable, sublingual, or liquid taken on an empty stomach. Now, those over 65 should take at least 1,000 micrograms a day because as we get older, we have less intrinsic factor that helps us break down and absorb the B12. Now, B12 is a water-soluble vitamin, so there's little risk of toxicity because you pee out the rest. It's very inexpensive and can be found at any grocery store or pharmacy. Let's talk about the most common mistakes I see when people get started or they make and they get tripped up by a lot of misinformation out there. Ah, yes. The most common mistake I see is people worrying and stressing about protein. I'm sure many of you have that question, but it is a myth that you have to eat meat or animal products or dairy to get enough protein, or that plant proteins are incomplete. The fact is that all plants have protein. All plants have all the essential amino acids that you need in varying amounts. By eating a wide variety of whole plants, not processed, you get all the protein you need plus all the micronutrients and fiber you don't get from animal products. Do you know where the animal got its protein? From plants, the grass they eat. The cow, the chicken, the pig is just the middleman or middle cow. You can go straight to the source and get the cleanest protein from whole plants. And you do not need to food combine. Our digestive system is actually smarter than we are and recycles amino acids as we need them. Plus, you don't need as much protein as industry wants you to believe. They are just trying to sell you stuff and make more money. And it's so easy because greens, beans, whole grains, nuts, and seeds are very high in protein. Even fruit has protein. Now, you only need about 10% of calories from 10% of calories from protein. And that recommendation is on the high side just to cover 98% of the population. So, for example, on a 2,000 calorie diet, 10% would be 200 calories from protein. Now, there are 4 calories per gram of protein. So, if you divide 200 by 4, you get 50 grams of protein a day. And studies show that plant protein supports muscle growth just as much as animal-based protein when matched gram for gram. Now, most of the time, my protein is well over 10%, closer to 15%, and even 20%. So if you're an athlete or wanting to build muscle, you can absolutely do that without much effort. Or if you're older and have higher protein needs, it's really not difficult. Now, but what about all these protein supplements? Do you need to take a protein supplement to get enough protein on a plant-based diet? So another way to calculate your protein needs is to multiply 0.36 times your weight in pounds or 0.8 times kilograms to get your daily protein amount. So for someone that is 150 pounds, that's about 54 grams of protein. Now, what if you're older or work out? I see so many things online these days saying you need 100, 150, 200 grams of protein a day to increase muscle mass or prevent muscle loss in old age. But is that true? Are there studies that actually prove that? Well, in fact, there's new studies showing that increasing protein above the RDA does not increase muscle mass. Even when the study participants doubled the amount of protein, there was no significant difference in strength or muscle mass compared to the lower protein groups. And just eating more protein will not build or preserve muscle mass. You actually have to be doing resistance training to build and maintain muscle mass. And yes, you do need adequate protein. You know, protein deficiency is almost non-existent in industrialized countries. The only way you can be protein deficient is not eating enough calories, which is a problem in third world countries where starvation is real. but it is very easy to meet and even exceed your protein needs eating only whole plants without the need to supplement. Now, if you're eating a bunch of processed junk foods, then yes, you could be low in protein along with a whole lot of other things, right? Because junk food is just mostly oil and sugar and salt and refined junk, then you might be getting a whole lot of calories and not a whole lot of protein. But when you eat a whole food plant-based diet with a variety of foods and enough calories, you can easily get all the protein you need. And did you know that the gladiators, Rome's prized fighters, were largely vegetarian? They were actually known as the barley men because they ate so much barley and beans. They were the greatest athletes of the day, and they ate mostly plants, as seen from the strontium and sulfur levels in their bones. So, thousands of years ago, the strongest, most muscular fighters were eating mostly plants. So, do you think they were worried about how much protein they were getting, calculating on their phones, making protein shoot smoothie shakes? No, of course not. The word protein didn't even exist yet, and there sure wasn't marketing to eat more protein. And yet, they weren't having any issues with building muscle and strength by eating mostly beans and whole grains. And I know what your next question is. I saw a couple in the chat. Isn't soy bad for you? I heard it causes cancer. Well, the truth is that all the most recent studies show that soybeans are actually protective against cancer and very good for you. The Journal of National Cancer Institute did a meta-analysis in 2006 of 18 different studies on breast cancer and soy and found that soy had an overall protective effect. Soybeans were a staple in traditional Asian cuisine, and maybe why women who consumed more soy in Asia had a much lower risk of breast cancer. Soy contains isoflavones, also known as phytoestrogens, because they look similar to our body's estrogens. Now, before scientists understood how the phytoestrogens function in the body, they hypothesized that they were bad since the structure was so similar to estrogen. However, it is much better understood that these phytoestrogens actually have an anti-estrogenic effect. This is because the body has two types of estrogen receptors, alpha and beta. Our body's own estrogen binds to the alpha receptors, causing an increased risk of cancer, but the phytoestrogens bind to the beta receptors and then block our own estrogen from being able to bind to the alpha receptors, having an anti-estrogenic effect in breast tissue. This is actually similar to how the drug tamoxifen works. Now, a study in 2009 on soy food intake and breast cancer survival rates showed that those who had the highest soy consumption had a 34% reduction in breast cancer recurrence. And the phytoestrogens in 1 cup of soy milk daily may reduce breast cancer recurrence by 25%. And this is both for estrogen positive and estrogen negative breast cancers. The famous breast cancer surgeon for Angelina Jolie and Sheryl Crow and author of Breasts, the Owner's Manual, Dr. Christy Funk, tells her breast cancer patients to eat soy every single day to help prevent breast cancer recurrence. Now, the second most common mistake I see is relying on vegan processed foods. So processed foods are just these frankenfoods that they look nothing like the whole food they came from. Processed foods are loaded with oil, sodium, sugar, refined grains. And these frankenfoods are designed to get you hooked with the perfect blend of salt, sugar, and fat, so companies make more profit. Now, these companies actually hire people called craveability scientists whose job it is to create the perfect bliss point to light up your brain like the 4th of July. And this includes a lot of these vegan and plant-based products on the market as well. Now, what about oil? There's nothing more controversial these days, even in the plant-based community, than the topic of oil. Strict whole food plant-based people say oil is a processed food and should be avoided. Others claim it's required for a healthy diet to get enough omega-3 fatty acids. What's the truth? So first of all, oil is a processed food with very little of the nutrients left from the whole food it came from. And this includes any oil: olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, flaxseed oil. They're all just 100% fat. And it doesn't matter if it's organic, cold pressed, or expeller. Just 1 tablespoon of any oil equals 120 calories of pure fat. Now, fats that come from whole foods like avocados, nuts, and seeds are also bound with fiber, which slows digestion, keeps us full longer, and has all the nutrients like vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and phytonutrients that came from the whole food. But oil has all the fiber stripped away and most of the nutrients removed as well because the nutrients are actually bound to the fiber. So it becomes a very calorie dense, nutrient poor food. And Dr. John McDougall has said, the fat you eat is the fat you wear. So if you are trying to lose weight, avoiding oil will be crucial because it is just empty calories with no satiety. Okay, but what about olive oil and heart health? Don't we need olive oil to lower our risk of heart disease? There's so much confusion about olive oil when it comes to heart health. Many claim that the heart health benefits of the olive oil are due to the Mediterranean diet. However, what the headlines don't say about the Mediterranean diet study is that the people of Crete, the Mediterranean island in the study, were actually eating primarily a whole food plant-based diet with a little added olive oil. So was their heart health because of the olive oil or the 80 to 90% calories from the whole plants that they were consuming? So Americans in the oil industry took the message to be great. I can keep eating my same poor diet, add some olive oil, and get the same effects. No. The Mediterranean's lower risk of heart disease was more likely due to the majority of whole grains, vegetables, beans, and fruits they were eating. Actually, nowadays, the people in the Mediterranean are eating a much more Western diet like the standard American diet and have similar heart disease risk as Americans. Their olive oil doesn't seem to be helping now that the rest of their diet has changed. And in fact, in a brachial artery test, olive oil has been shown to damage the endothelial cells that line the arteries almost as much as a McDonald's sausage egg McMuffin. Oof. So Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn that I mentioned earlier, the famous surgeon from the Cleveland Clinic and author of How to Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, recommends no oil, not even a drop, especially for those who are trying to reverse heart disease or at risk of developing coronary artery disease, which sadly is most of America and westernized countries. So while yes, a Mediterranean diet is better than the standard American diet and much more plant-centered, it has not been shown to reverse heart disease like a whole food plant-based diet has. But how will you get enough omegas if you're not eating olive oil? Well, you could have 1 cup of olive oil at 2,000 calories of pure fat, or 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed for only 37 calories and get about the same omegas. What do you think you should choose? We should eat the whole food the oil came from, eat olives, not olive oil, eat avocados, not avocado oil, eat flaxseed, not flax oil. And that way you get all the healthy fats you need, but not too much, as well as all the fiber and nutrients that come with the whole food that make it anti-inflammatory, but is thrown away when they make the oil. And there was a brand new study that was just published in the Journal of American Heart Association in July 2024 to really look at the whole food plant-based diet with and without olive oil. They took 40 people who were not plant-based eaters and were at risk for cardiovascular disease. They put half on a whole food plant-based diet with 4 tablespoons of olive oil a day, and the other half was virtually oil-free with no more than a teaspoon of olive oil a day. Now, they saw improvements on both diets compared to their previous diet, but the improvements in cholesterol, blood sugar, triglycerides, and C-reactive protein was even greater on the low oil whole food plant-based diet. In fact, when the low oil group switched to the high oil diet, their blood markers actually got worse. So this supports the fact that yes, while olive oil is better than dairy fat, chicken fat, or beef fat, that little to no oil is best of all for heart health. And then there's the coconut oil craze. And coconut oil is just the worst oil. It is a processed food that's 100% fat, but it is also the most concentrated source of saturated fat in the food supply, with 87% of its fat being saturated. Just 1 tablespoon of coconut oil is 12 grams of saturated fat. Yet the American Heart Association recommends no more than 13 grams of saturated fat in a day. There's no way you can stay below that level using coconut oil because there are small amounts of saturated fats in most all foods, which add up. Again, the studies the coconut oil industry used to claim their product is healthy involved populations that eat lots of whole coconut, not coconut oil. So whole coconut contains fiber and nutrients that the oil does not. It's like the sugar industry saying you should eat more refined sugar because whole fruit is healthy because it contains sugar. Now, we all know that's not true, and it's the same with oil. Now, what about the claim that coconut oil raises good HDL and since that coconut oil contains MCTs, it's actually healthy? Well, these claims are simply not supported by science. Coconut oil only contains about 10% MCTs because, again, it's 87% saturated fat. And coconut oil actually raises LDL, your bad cholesterol, because of the types of saturated fat it contains, lauric and myristic. And oil is so sneaky. And this is where many well meaning vegetarians and vegans go wrong, can't lose weight, even gain weight. Maybe your cholesterol doesn't get better or gets worse. Vegan processed foods are full of oil. Some of them are mostly oil. Vegan cheese, vegan ice cream, vegan butter, vegan plant-based burgers. Just take a look at the ingredient label the next time you go shopping to see for yourself. And don't get me wrong, these foods can be helpful transition foods, especially for hardcore meat and dairy eaters, but don't think you're going to have your best health and weight eating a lot of these foods. So let's actually take a look at a couple nutrition labels. And this is a nutrition label of an Impossible Burger. And while you take a look and see that it doesn't have any cholesterol, this does make it better than eating a beef burger. But the second ingredient is coconut oil, and the grams of fat are 17, meaning this is over 58% of pure fat. And coconut oil, again, is the worst one because it's so high in saturated fat. So take a look. That saturated fat in this one burger is 13 grams for just one serving. That's so ridiculously high. And here's another one that people love to talk about, and that's their vegan butters like Earth Balance. It's 100 calories for 1 tablespoon and 11 grams of fat. And if you take a look at the ingredients, you see that the first and main ingredient is a vegetable oil blend. It's just fat. It's not helping your health or your waistline. And you say, I don't eat that much, but it really does add up so fast. And before you know it, you've added hundreds of extra calories every day that doesn't make you any more full. And I know cheese is a big issue for many, and there are many new plant-based and vegan cheeses on the market, but unfortunately, they're not going to help you lose weight or have your best health because they are made of mostly oil. This is a label of a popular brand called Violife. The second ingredient is coconut oil, and this is 75% fat. The saturated fat is 4 grams for just one slice. Now, this is very similar to other popular brands in the market like Daiya and Chow. It's just really best to learn how to make your own nut-based cheeses at home that have all the nutrients and fiber and much less fat. So the third most common mistake I hear people get worried about is carbs and thinking all carbs are bad. And this is where the keto and low carb movement really confused everyone because they lumped all carbohydrates into one category and labeled them bad. But all carbs are not the same nor bad. In fact, the body's main energy source is carbohydrates, and your brain loves carbs. A whole food plant-based diet is a high carbohydrate diet with 60 to 80% carbs, 10 to 20% protein, and 10 to 20% fat. The difference is complex versus simple carbohydrates. Complex carbohydrates come from whole plants like vegetables, fruit, whole grains, and beans. And simple carbohydrates come from things like table sugar, honey, high fructose corn syrup. Complex carbohydrates take longer for our body to break down, giving us sustained energy, while simple carbs like sugar are absorbed quickly and spike our blood sugar. Now, I know a lot of people are worried about eating fruit, but whole fruit contains vitamins, minerals, fiber, phytochemicals, and water. And there was a study to see, can you eat too much fruit? And in the study, they were eating 20 servings a day of fruit. And it was associated with lower blood pressure, lower A1C, weight loss, lower cholesterol. There were no bad outcomes. Now, you don't have to eat 20 servings of fruit a day, but it just proves the point that you don't need to worry about eating too much fruit. There was also a study in 2010 called the Global Burden of Disease, and they found that the number one risk factor for death and disability was our diet. Number 2 was smoking. So basically, again, our lifestyle creates more death and disease than anything else. And interestingly, they found that the worst aspect of our diet was not eating enough fruit. So when these low-carb pundits tell you that fruit is bad, the data says otherwise. And not eating enough fruit is the number one dietary risk factor linked to increased chronic disease. So here's some more truth bombs about carbs. Studies have shown that those who eat more carbs and less fat, but more calories, are thinner. In the China study in the 70s and 80s, they compared the Chinese Americans who had similar physical jobs to adjust for calorie expenditure and saw that the Chinese were actually eating more calories, but were significantly thinner than their American counterparts who were eating less calories. One of the differences was that the Chinese were eating less fat than Americans. That fat was replaced by carbohydrates, whole, complex carbohydrates. Now, Americans were eating over 30% fat, and the Chinese were eating 5 to 10% fat. So, from this study came the low fat diet craze, and recommendations were made to reduce fat to 30%. But compared to the Chinese, that was still a high fat diet. Now, how carbohydrates are processed in the body has a lot to do with this. Carbohydrates are first burned as energy, then excess carbohydrates are stored as glycogen in our muscles and liver. And then, if there's still more excess, it's burned off as body heat. The body actually doesn't turn carbohydrates into body fat very easily. There's about a 30% loss of calories in just the process of digestion. On the other hand, dietary fat is stored as body fat very easily and efficiently, only losing about 3% calories in digestion. Fat is not burned as energy right away because it's about long-term stored energy in times of famine. Carbs do not make you fat. Also, those sugary junk foods, they are really just a conduit for more fat because they are made with butter and cheese and eggs and whole milk and oil. It was never the carbs' fault in the first place. Now let's talk about insulin resistance. It's much better understood now that it's actually fat that is the problem. Fat in your tissues and in your food gum up the lock on your cells so that insulin, which is the key, can't open the cell's lock to let sugar get in. This causes sugar to back up like a traffic jam in your blood, leading to high blood sugar. If this keeps happening, then you end up with prediabetes or diabetes. Now, the excess sugar in your blood damages your cells and organs, but sugar was never the cause, it was the symptom. So, reducing high fat foods like oil, butter, cheese, eggs, and animal meats is actually the solution to preventing and reversing diabetes. Because when you don't have fat blocking the cell lock, then insulin can work better to let the sugar in. Carbs make you more insulin sensitive, and fat makes you more insulin resistant. The old advice to diabetics to just count carbs only addresses the symptoms, but doesn't do anything to improve the underlying cause. That's why over the years, you may have to take more and more diabetes medications and insulin because insulin resistance just keeps getting worse. And if you're familiar with Cyrus Khambatta or Robbie Barbero, this is what they teach in their book, Mastering Diabetes. And the fourth most common mistake I see are people trying to go plant-based cold turkey, no pun intended, or without support. Now, cold turkey just doesn't work for most people. It's a crash diet mentality, and willpower will only last for a few days or weeks or months at most. And then you fall back into your old habits when you get tired, stressed, or overwhelmed. Our habits really control most of our lives, more than we realize. And a lot of our cravings and temptations are really centered around our habits. And slow and steady wins the race. A slow and steady change over a longer period creates more results because you're actually addressing habit change over time. And this is a focus on your habits and not the scale, calorie counting, or portion control. It's about adding healthy habits rather than trying to take away too many things in the beginning. And as you crowd out the bad calories for good ones, you lose weight more consistently without feeling deprived. And there's just so much to learn. You can't do it overnight. So let's talk about some tips for success in transitioning to a whole food plant-based diet so that you can make it a lifestyle and not a temporary diet. Instead of going cold turkey, you have to focus on gradually changing your habits over time with realistic expectations. Why do most New Year's resolutions fail? You know, by February, 80% of people usually give up on their New Year's resolutions. Why? Well, it's because people try to make too many big changes all at once. And then when their motivation fails, they can't keep the big, hard changes going. They fall back into their old habits because it's just easier. BJ Fogg, the author of Tiny Habits, The Small Changes That Change Everything, talks about motivation monkeys and that they get us all worked up and really excited to make change. But then when, the going gets tough and life gets in the way, these motivation monkeys will leave us high and dry. They won't be there for us when we need them most. So instead of just trying to be motivated all the time, we have to find a way to lower the bar and make habit change feel easy to do, even when we don't feel like it, even when we're tired, even when we're stressed. So by focusing on tiny habits, you lower the bar so you don't feel so overwhelmed. And we actually overestimate the amount of change we can make in a short period of time, but we underestimate what we can do in a longer period of time. And new tiny habits, small changes done consistently, will achieve more results than big, huge changes that you try to do all at once and infrequently. It's why the New Year's resolutions fail. So you want to focus on making a few small changes each week that you can incorporate into your life easily, that gives you confidence, calms down your brain so that it's not freaking out from so much change. And then as you gain confidence, you can start adding a few more small changes every 1 to 2 weeks. And the next tip is your environment. Your environment has such a major impact on your success. So what can you do to improve your environment? Well, your house is probably the most important place and where you have the most control. And like Chef AJ says, if it's in your house, it's in your mouth. And I know that is true for me. So throw it away, donate it to a food shelter, or if it's something that your spouse or children will throw a fit about and aren't on board, then have them hide it so you don't know where it is. Maybe you have a special fridge out in the garage or a separate cabinet or a place in the pantry. Put the junk up high or down low or in a corner where you don't look normally. Then make all the healthy things out, put it out and open at eye level, like fruit in pretty baskets on the counter, clear containers in the fridge, right at eye level. So that's the first thing you see when you open the refrigerator. Now, if you have to use it up, I totally get it. But don't keep buying it, right? When you go to the grocery store, use a list and stick to it. Don't even go down the chip and cookie and soda aisle. There is nothing there that's good for you, and it's not worth the temptation. Or use one of those grocery shopping apps so you can order your groceries for pickup. You don't even have to go in the store to be tempted and impulse buy. Now, the next most important thing is planning. I wish I could say there was, more fast food restaurants that serve whole food plant-based meals, but there's just not yet. We have to plan and cook and make our own food. And there's more and more products coming on the market from brands like Plant Strong to help make it easier, but we have to have a plan for what we're going to eat and cook. And like Benjamin Franklin said, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And this is absolutely one of the most important things for success when eating whole food plant-based. You have to have a meal plan. So write down some meals that you and your family plan to eat for the week. Then you have to get your recipes out, write down the ingredients, make your grocery list, and shop for them. And then if you really want to save time and make it easier on you, you'll want to do some sort of meal prepping and batch cooking. That way you already have some things prepared to help you make the easy choice, the healthy choice. Because what do you think is going to happen at 5 p.m. after work when you're tired and hangry and you have nothing prepared and don't want to cook? Yeah, that's when trouble happens, right? And you find yourself in a drive-through ordering pizza or DoorDash. We have to plan ahead when we have the energy and motivation so that when we aren't motivated, we can still make good choices. And the last tip is having support. Whole food plant-based is not the norm, and you may be the only one trying to do this. Your spouse may not be on board. You have to figure out how that's going to work in your household. You need a community for support of like-minded people, maybe a friend, family member, local group, or Facebook group. And they can give you encouragement, tips, recipes, help getting back on track, and being able to follow in someone else's footsteps who's done it and succeeded. Having an accountability partner is so important. It can actually make you 65% more likely to achieve your goals because there's going to be days when you want to give up and it doesn't seem worth it and you're losing your motivation and you need somebody to pick you up and tell you to keep going because it's going to be worth it in the end. So what do I eat in a day? Let me give you a few ideas. Now, these are only my examples based on my caloric needs, and I eat really large portions, sometimes double portions, so I'm comfortably full. For breakfast, I might have vegan banana walnut pancakes, pomegranate arrows. For lunch, I might have a large bowl of white bean chili, clementines. For dinner, I might have whole grain pasta marinara with soy curls, some broccoli. For snacks or dessert, maybe a sweet potato brownie or banana. So this example is 1,636 calories, 69 grams of protein, 29 grams of fat, 300 grams of carbs, and 54 grams of fiber. Now, one of my other favorite breakfasts is avocado toast. Half an avocado on Ezekiel bread with everything bagel seasoning, topped with arugula, some raspberries on the side. For lunch, I might have a Mediterranean Buddha bowl with quinoa, chickpeas, broccoli, roasted red peppers, hummus, balsamic vinegar. For dinner, we like vegan American goulash, green beans. And for snacks and dessert, blueberry muffins, apples. This example is 1,546 calories, 65 grams of protein, 28 grams of fat, 275 grams of carbs, and 67 grams of fiber. Yeah, I got no problem going to the bathroom. So this example is tofu breakfast tacos with some blackberries. Maybe for lunch, Instant Pot wild rice soup. That's one of my husband's favorites. Some kiwi. For dinner, another family favorite, Southwestern potatoes with cashew nacho cheese sauce. This is roasted potatoes, black beans, corn, avocado, green onions, cilantro, salsa. For snacks, I like crunchy roasted chickpeas or maybe a carrot cake muffin. And this example is 1,711 calories, 73 grams of protein, 35 grams of fat, 305 grams of carbs, and 55 grams of fiber. And I believe it's really important to have a progress, not perfection mindset when making big lifestyle changes. You have to take your time and slowly change so you don't feel so overwhelmed. The more you eat whole food plant-based, the better you'll feel, the more benefits you're going to experience, and the easier it gets over time. And if you slip up, just get back on. Like, don't shame yourself for messing up. Just treat it as a learning experience and make the best choice you can each and every day. So let me share with you some amazing success stories that will inspire you. So Chris told me only after 4 weeks of transitioning to a whole food plant-based diet, I had my yearly lab work done. My cholesterol dropped 35 points and my LDL dropped significantly too. And I wasn't even 100% WFPB yet. Thank you for your program, Kim. It came at the perfect time when we decided to go WFPB, and I wondered how I was going to start all over with our menus. Your program has made the transition so much easier. Then there's Allison, who said, when I first went plant-based in 2020, my health was in a bad spot. I was pre-diabetic, had painful arthritis, high cholesterol, low energy, and my biggest reason was that Alzheimer's runs in my family. My health is in a much better spot. I'm no longer pre-diabetic, have normal cholesterol, improved energy, and I'm off my acid reflux meds, and my arthritis feels better. All my blood levels are normal. Before my journey, I tested as having a memory deficit with the possibility of Alzheimer's. After my journey started, I was retested again and it showed normal memory skills, which I noticed in my daily life. I've lost 30 pounds, feel the best I have in a long time, and my mood is also better. My future now looks bright and I have no longer have a fear of Alzheimer's, diabetes, or cholesterol issues. Amazing. Next is Diane, who said, I started this journey 6.5 weeks ago. When I first started, my blood pressure was dangerously high. My cholesterol, triglycerides, blood sugar, and kidney function tests were all high. I had so much inflammation in my knees, I could no longer get in the shower and couldn't walk more than a few steps without having trouble breathing. I felt like I was not going to be here much longer. Yesterday, I walked a half-mile nature trail. I've lost 17 pounds so far. I can't even remember when I felt this good physically. I am pain-free for the first time in 14 years. What I like most about this program is that it works. Plant Powered Life has not only helped me achieve my goals, but has helped me surpass them. I can honestly say I was never hungry, not even one time. This change in eating has literally been a lifesaver for me. That just gives me chills. I mean, such a huge change in quality of life in only about 6 weeks. That's just incredible. So Linda Harris Jones is another member of my program, Plant Powered Life, and she told me my mother died a day before her 65th birthday, and my father died 6 months short of his 65th. I've been working hard to keep the promise I made to my mother at her funeral that I will live the long and healthy life God intended for her. Several years ago, I was over 250 pounds with an A1C over 12. Today, my A1C is about 6.4 by giving up the vegan junk foods. I've released over 100 pounds. Thank you guys for all your support. Kim in this group made a major difference in my life. So amazing. And she's still a member in a group inspired supporting others. This is a really inspirational story from someone who's very nervous about going all in on the plant-based diet lifestyle. Michelle told me before beginning whole food plant-based eating, the standard American diet was killing me. It was not good at all, and I had just been diagnosed with high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, and high blood pressure. Quick update, my latest A1C is currently at 5.1. My fasting blood sugar is usually in the lower 90s, and I rarely spike above 160. I've lost a total of 103 pounds, and I'm just 3 or 4 pounds from my goal. My B12 and vitamin D levels are now in normal ranges. Everything now feels more like this is just how I eat. It's just how I live. I'm so glad I signed up. Plant Powered Life has helped this former sad dieter transition to a healthy life. Thank you. So Michelle really took that slow and steady approach to heart and took her time gradually transitioning over to a whole food plant-based diet and totally changed her life in just a year. So inspirational. So if it's okay with you, I'd love to tell you more about my program to help you make that transition to a whole food plant-based diet, but only if you want to hear about it. So please say yes in the chat if I have your permission to tell you about it, if you'd like to have me keep going. So Gwendolyn says yes, 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 please. See lots of yeses. Yay, we can keep going. Good. Yep. Yes, please. Awesome. So Plant Powered Life is my comprehensive program where I help you slowly transition to a whole food plant-based diet at your own pace so you can have your best health, achieve your ideal weight, and make this a lifestyle you love and can keep going. I give you that support and guidance you need, what I wish I had when I first was getting started. So the process I take my Plant Powered Life members through is called Your Path to Health. And each week you focus on just one thing to learn so that transitioning to a whole food plant-based diet is slow and easy and not all at once and overwhelming. And this is the secret to long-term success. You'll learn everything you need to know about making whole food plant-based cooking simple, easy, and delicious. You'll learn how to eat more and still lose weight so you're not hungry all the time. You'll learn how to eat out and order at restaurants, how to stay plant-based while traveling, and strategies for making this a lifestyle and not a temporary diet. So each letter of the acronym HEALTH stands for a different concept and a new week in transitioning to a whole food plant-based diet. Each week you get new small actions to take, recipes, cooking demos, and tips to help you transition slowly over 6 weeks or longer so that you can gain confidence and create new habits by adding in more healthy foods and crowding out the bad. Week 1 is H, harness the power of whole grains for gut health. Week 2 is E, enjoy fruit for improved immunity. Week 3 is A, add colorful vegetables to supercharge your nutrient density. Week 4 is L, love legumes for high protein and fiber. Week 5 is T, trade oil for nuts and seeds to support your brain and heart. And week 6 is how to keep your plant-powered life going long-term. Each week you get new videos guiding you through the next step of the process, and there's even 3 different levels to choose from to go as slow or as fast as you want. So if you're currently eating the standard American diet, you'll probably want to start at the beginner level. If you've dabbled in plant-based eating, you're probably more intermediate. But if you're already vegan and just ready to go totally whole food plant-based, then you may want to take the advanced path. And you can switch between these anytime if you decide you need to slow down or speed up or whatever. Each week of the 6 weeks, you'll also get a new cooking demo where I'll show you how to make different recipes every week. You can cook along with me, learn new tips and tricks about oil-free cooking. And I talk a lot about how to save time and even save money. And I show you how to prep recipes from pantry and freezer staples so you can throw together a quick meal any day of the week without having to chop or slice or have ingredients go bad quickly. And label reading is so important, but the marketing can really trick you. There are a lot of vegan products marketed as healthy, but are full of hidden ingredients that can harm your health. What I shared with you today about how to read the oil and saturated fat is just one tiny thing. So I teach you how to read labels like a pro so that you can just glance at it and know whether it's a yes or no. Now, if the thought of meal planning is overwhelming, So especially if you're used to not having to cook much or rely on packaged, processed, or restaurant food. But meal planning will save you so much time and stress. And in my ultimate meal planning system, I teach you how to get organized and be able to meal plan for the week in a matter of minutes. You'll even learn how to figure out what to meal prep and batch cook ahead of time so that you can make that healthy choice the easy choice. It does not have to be time consuming or stressful. And you get over 100 easy and delicious whole food plant-based recipes with ingredients you can find at most any grocery store. I also include nut and gluten and soy substitutions on all the recipes so you can customize to your preferences. And for those who are ready to go all in that advanced level, I do include 6 weeks of meal plans that are designed to help you save time, help you meal prep and batch cook for the whole week. And these meal plans come with grocery shopping lists and weekend power prep guides. But I really encourage you to use these meal plans as a guide and customize them to your needs because we are all different. We have different caloric needs and tastes. So please don't feel like you have to use these exactly as is, but they're a great guide to see how to put together different meals to make sure that you're getting all the nutrients you need. And I know many people have really enjoy being able to connect with other like-minded people. And the support and accountability really helps people be successful, especially when you're feeling alone. So you'll also receive access to our private Facebook community. That's such a wonderful, positive, supportive group. Many of the success stories I mentioned today are still active members in the group. And you can connect with others, get new tips and recipes, ask me our members questions anytime. And we also have fun challenges throughout the years so you can participate in to stay motivated and even win prizes. And you get me every single month to keep you going strong. I do a live group coaching call each month called Plant Powered Happy Hour, where you can chat with me face to face, get help with anything you're struggling with, share your successes, get personalized advice and accountability to help you achieve your goals. I also do a live cooking demo every month to help you keep learning new recipes and tips and tricks for making it easy. And you can even chat with me while we're cooking and ask questions. And now all of these are recorded, so if you can't join live, you can always watch them later. And I also include a lot of great additional bonuses to really help you be successful. And here are just a few of the featured bonuses I include. So bonus number 1 is how to stop sabotaging your own success. Do you get in your own way of achieving your goals? Do you stay strong all day, but then give in to temptation at nighttime? Do you struggle with making yourself do what you know you need to do? You don't want to miss this special bonus class that will help you understand why you aren't able to stick to your intentions, how you are not weak, not lazy, not a failure. And I'll give you several strategies to help you stay on track with your intentions to help you achieve your goals. Bonus number 2 is Whole Food Plant-Based Compliant Brands Shopping Guide. Many people ask me what my favorite whole food plant-based brands are, what I buy for this or that. And this bonus shopping guide is a comprehensive list of all my favorite whole food plant-based products and brands that you can get at most any grocery store and on Amazon. And these products will help you make eating plant-based super easy so that you're not having to make every single thing from scratch. Bonus number 3 is End Emotional Eating with EFT. Anybody an emotional eater like me? In this bonus training, I teach you a simple technique that can help you reduce stress, cravings, and emotional eating, and is scientifically proven to lower cortisol levels, stress hormones that are associated with chronic disease and weight gain. It's called EFT, or Emotional Freedom Technique, also known as tapping. Now, I've incorporated this into my own life. It's helped me stress less, curb emotional eating, as well as many of my clients. And this is something you can do at anywhere, anytime you start to feel stressed or overwhelmed, tempted, or having cravings. I even do it in my car when I'm driving and there's crazy traffic stressing me out. Bonus number 4 is how to supercharge weight loss on a plant-based diet. In this special bonus training, I cover the top 10 ways to supercharge your weight loss on a plant-based diet without starvation, deprivation, or tiny portions. Well, those things they just slow your metabolism down. Now, there are many things that you may not think are really important, and aren't even food related, but really are when it comes to keeping weight loss going and not hitting a plateau. You just might be surprised about what science says about the simple things you can do to supercharge your weight loss. Now, if you choose the pay in full option, you'll actually also get a free digital copy of my Amazon bestselling book, Plant Powered, and this will help you to reinforce many of the concepts in Plant Powered Life. So in Plant Powered Life, you get access to the self-paced online curriculum, everything I just talked about, and all the bonuses that I mentioned. Plus, you get lifetime access to everything. So you can take this as fast or as slow as you want, go back and review anything, and if life gets in the way, you can just pick up right where you left off. And this is over a $3,800 value that you can get for only one payment of $497. But I also do offer a monthly payment plan to help you work with your budget. So you can spread out the payments over 6 months for $97 a month. Now, there's actually also other third-party payment plan options that are offered on the checkout page from companies like Affirm, Klarna, and Afterpay for as low as $44 a month. And if you choose one of the third-party payment plan options for the $497 amount, you'll actually still get the free digital copy of my book, Plant Powered. And like I mentioned at the beginning of class, there's another special bonus that's only available to you guys on this class because you stuck with me to the end. And it's my Ultimate Plant Powered Cooking Bundle that has 15 bonus cooking demos for even more plant-powered cooking tips and recipes, like vegan fettuccine alfredo, pumpkin spice oatmeal cookies, one-pot vegan American goulash, crispy air fryer tofu, roasted veggie fajitas, vegan broccoli cheese casserole, cheesy vegan scallop potatoes, and I even show you how to use the Ninja Creamy to make pineapple Dole Whip, chocolate ice cream, and pumpkin spice ice cream, and so many more. And this is a $597 value for free if you decide to enroll in Plant Powered Life today. So the next steps to take if you'd like to join me in Plant Powered Life is to open up a new browser tab on your device or computer and type the web address you see, plantpoweredlifeprogram.com/enroll. Sarah's actually posted the link in the chat, so you can just click that link and it'll take you right to it. Now this page has all the details about the program that I just talked about, so you can decide if it's right for you. But make sure to use this specific link so that you get that extra Ultimate Plant Powered Cooking Bundle bonus. And if you join, share in the chat so we can welcome you. If you have any technical issues, please let us know. Sarah can help you in the chat as well. So let's see, we got a few minutes left. I want to do a short Q&A. So I'm going to get over to the Q&A questions. And I'm going to try to pick some questions that are, kind of, applicable to everyone. Okay. Let's see. Let's do Monica Aline from Monica. Are egg whites better than the whole egg? So egg whites are the protein of the egg. So when, at the beginning, I was talking about animal protein being associated with higher IGF-1 levels and increasing cancer risk. So, egg whites are not better because it's concentrated animal protein. So, that it doesn't make it better because it's just the protein part. So they're still associated with some issues there. Let's see. Some of these questions I answered during our presentation. So I'm going to get to one that I have not answered. Yeah, a lot of these are like early questions. So I answered these. Okay, Lisa, this is a good one. A couple people had the same question. I get that coconut oil is bad, but what about coconut milk? Okay, so let's talk about other coconut products. I only use light canned coconut milk, in curries and things like that, and shredded coconut. I avoid the high-fat coconut products like coconut cream and the full-fat coconut milk because it is more concentrated and it has higher saturated fat. So you just want to really look at your overall daily saturated fat intake, and the American Heart Association says to keep it 13 grams of saturated fat or less. So you want to be aware of that. And that's why I tend to just use light canned coconut milk on occasion, but it's usually mixed in with another big dish. And so that keeps the saturated fat per serving loaf, or maybe a little sprinkle of shredded coconut on some things. Let's see. Wendy Forrest, what is your opinion on the healthiest milk substitute? So the plant-based milks, it's really preference. I personally like unsweetened soy milk because all of the studies that soy has done, over soy and the health benefits of reducing risk of breast cancer. I actually didn't mention this, but it actually can improve bone health, even improve menopausal symptoms. Soy milk is actually higher in protein as well. And so if you're trying to increase your protein intake, using soy milk would be better than almond milk because almond milk is actually very low in protein. Oat milk is kind of in the middle. It's a little higher, but not as high as soy. There's some other ones as well, but really it's just preference. And the biggest thing I say is just make sure to get one that's unsweetened. Let's see. Let's see, Donna, can I eat fruit at night if I have diabetes? So fruit is actually really good for diabetics, especially, but if you're worried about spiking your blood sugar, then go with berries. So they're lower on the glycemic index. And so if you're have, high insulin resistance, you're probably going to want to start with those so that over time, as the insulin resistant improves, then you can expand, your fruit. So, fruit is actually really great for diabetics for reducing and preventing and reversing diabetes. And that's actually what they teach in Mastering Diabetes. They are both actually type 1 diabetics, and they eat a ton of fruit every single day. Let's see. Let's see, Laura's iPhone, what do you drink besides water? I'm a coffee drinker. I like a couple cups of coffee in the morning, but I only put a little splash of milk, like not milk, but plant milk, soy milk, unsweetened, and then a tiny bit of coconut sugar. So, don't add a bunch of cream and, ton of refined sugar to it. So I do drink coffee in the morning. I also drink unsweetened sparkling water. I like kind of the bubbles. I used to be a big diet soda addict. And so having kind of that bubbly mouth feel to the sparkling water has really helped me kick that habit. And just, I like it. So bubbly, Topo Chico, LaCroix, those brands that are unsweetened, that's what you want to look for. Sometimes I drink tea, unsweetened tea. That's mostly it. Yeah. I drink lots of water every day. Paula Gessie, how do you roast chickpeas without oil? You just do it. Don't need to add anything. I just pat them dry, toss them with some spices, put them on a silicone baking mat on my baking sheet, and then I roast them. And doesn't need any oil. You can actually also do it in an air fryer to get them nice and crispy. Okay. Pam, is this all via Facebook? So no, so the Plant Powered Life is a standalone course by itself. It's in the Teachable platform. So you log in, there's videos, there's modules you go through and lessons. Now we do have the additional Facebook community and group, but you don't have to have Facebook to do the program. It's extra support. All the live coaching calls are on Zoom. The recordings are posted in the course, the Teachable platform, so you do not have to have Facebook to participate. Let's see. iPhone Janet, can I do whole food plant-based if I have tree nut allergies? I've seen recipes for cashew cheese, but that won't work for me. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to substitute things for like a nacho cheese sauce. You could do tofu, you can do white beans, cooked potatoes. There's a lot of different options that you can use instead of cashews to make like a nacho cheese sauce. And I include all those substitutions on all my recipes because I know everybody has, a lot of people do have allergies and they need to be able to, change that up. Awesome. And don't forget, if you join, please let me know so I can welcome you in the chat. Let's see. Sarah P, what about yogurt? What do you replace with that? Well, there's actually plant-based yogurts on the market. Just look for one that's unsweetened. If you are trying to keep your saturated fat level, I would stay away from the coconut version ones. Those tend to be a little higher in saturated fats, but there's, soy milk yogurts, there's almond milk yogurts, there's all different kinds. There's cashew-based ones. You can actually make your own yogurt. I haven't ever done it before, but plenty of people have made it in their Instant Pot with plant-based milks. Let's see, Bernie, could you address all the GMOs in today's plants? So let me talk about this. So I do recommend that you go organic or non-GMO as much as possible. But I know that that's hard for a lot of people. It can be, cost prohibitive, very expensive, maybe not even available in your area. So the good news is that the studies show that the more fruits and vegetables you eat, even if they're conventional, the more lives would be saved. So it is still improving your health. But I do recommend organic or non-GMO as much as possible to reduce your risk, reduce your exposure to pesticides. Yeah. Welcome. Let's see, Sandora, Lisa just joined, Valerie just joined, Santera just joined. Looking forward to learning how to cook healthier. Welcome. And I think Betty joined as well. Welcome, welcome, guys. Jennifer just joined the program this week. Yay! So glad. Welcome, guys. Let's see. Tanisha, do you make smoothies? If yes, what fruits or veggies do you include? So sometimes I do. I'm not a big smoothie person, but sometimes my boys want a smoothie, and it's a great way to sneak in greens and they don't see it or taste it. I use soy milk, so it's higher in protein. I usually put in blueberries and tons of health with blueberries. It's also good for hiding greens because it's darker. Sometimes strawberries, maybe pineapple, put some kale in there, ground flaxseed. What else do I put in there? That's like kind of my staple one. Great flavor. And yeah, hide those greens in there. Let's see. Um, Debbie, can you use coconut sugar as a substitute for regular sugar when baking? Yeah, coconut sugar is an easy one-to-one swap. The best sugar for baking is actually date sugar. But it's not always a perfect one-to-one ratio. So I give you some tips on how to, do that a little different because date sugar absorbs more of the liquid versus coconut sugar where it dissolves in the liquid. So you have to make some adjustments. But date sugar is the best because it's just ground up dates. So it's the whole fruit. You get all the fiber and all the nutrients. Second best is coconut sugar, and I do use that on occasion as well. Let's see. Terry Berg, what brand of nutritional yeast do you recommend? Any. I actually just buy it in bulk at my local grocery store. They have it in bulk bins. It's really cheap and I use a lot. I hear Nutrilicious. You've probably seen that. You may have seen that advertised before. People who've tried it say they like it the best. It tastes really good. They've also got different flavors of the Nutrilicious, but Nutrilicious is just nutritional yeast. But I just buy whatever's in my store. There's lots of different brands. So I don't really recommend a specific brand, just whatever you want to get. Sonia House Jenkins just joined. Yay. Welcome, welcome. Michelle Ugarte, what soy milk brand do you buy? Mostly Silk, organic, unsweetened. But sometimes if I happen to be at Whole Foods, I actually don't shop at Whole Foods very often because it is more expensive. And so I shop at Walmart and HEB. But the 365 brand at Whole Foods is an unsweetened organic version. And so sometimes if I'm at Whole Foods, I will buy that as well. Good question. Jay, is the bonus for tonight the extra cooking demos, or is it all the bonuses that are only for tonight? So tonight is only the extra cooking demo bonus. All the bonuses, the other bonuses that I mentioned, come with it no matter what. But just for being on our class, you get that extra ultimate plant-powered cooking demo bundle for tonight. Let's see. Sonia House Jenkins, HEB, love HEB. Hi from San Antonio. Hi. Yes, we love HEB here in Texas. Let's see what else. Couple more. We'll just do a couple more minutes. We're already over time, but I know there's lots of questions. Let's see. Cynthia Taylor, do we have to sign up now to get all the bonuses? Can we join tomorrow and still receive all the bonuses? Yes, if you sign up tomorrow, you will receive all the bonuses. So if you need to wait until tomorrow, you're still in. Let's see. Other question, I'm going to kind of look over in the chat and see. Edward, welcome. I joined, excited to change my diet to healthier plant-based. Welcome, welcome. Let's see. See if there's any other questions. Somebody I think says, is this lifetime access? It is. So again, even though it's a 6 weeks program, that's just how I have the lessons broken up to kind of help guide you. You could take 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 36 weeks. You can take as long as you want. So you have lifetime access to everything, lifetime access to our group, lifetime access to the monthly coaching, the monthly cooking demos. It's not a subscription. So once you pay in full, you've got access forever. Welcome. You're welcome. Yay. Yay, Laura just joined. Welcome. Let's see. Is the extra bonus the gift for attending? So Tony, there was another bonus. The Plant Power Daily Checklist is a different bonus just for showing up. That's going to be sent directly to your email. As soon as we're off here, we'll send it to everybody. So that is an extra bonus that just for being here, you'll get that Plant Power Daily Checklist. But the extra bonus cooking demo is part of Plant Powered Life. Let's see if any other questions. Let's see, Shannon, I signed up for a program, but I'm not sure if it's the right program. I need help fixing my order. So Sharon and anybody else, if you have any questions or you run into any issues and you're not sure, send us an email to hello@simplyplantbasedkitchen.com. hello@simplyplantbasedkitchen.com. We'll help you with anything. We'll check your account. We'll see what you got, make sure it's the right thing, and we can help you fix anything if you have any issues. Welcome, guys. Let's see, Pam, I can't get the link to work. Security on my laptop won't let me access. When I type into my phone, I don't get to enroll. I get links to Instagram. There's the link. So maybe copy and paste the link. Maybe you're typing it wrong. But again, if you have any issues and you're kind of stuck and you can't figure out what's going on, send us an email to hello@simplyplantbasedkitchen.com and we can kind of take a look and see, what any issues are, and we will help you out with that. Let's see. Wendy Force, if you join and you learn of new protocols, will the program be revised? Yes. So any new updates I do, I'm always learning new things and updating the content. And, I want to make sure that you guys have the most current and best information. And so you get all the updates. So once you're in, you get all the good stuff forever. So, yep. Awesome. Let's see. We'll do one more question. Let's see, one that I haven't answered. Lisa, will the sessions in your 6-week plan be recorded so there can be accessed at any time that works for the user? Yes, Lisa, they're actually pre-recorded. It's already done. So you just hop in there. The videos are already there. And so you can do it whenever you want, 2 a.m., anytime in the world. And then any of the live demos that we do and live classes we do are also recorded and then posted to the group. So posted to the class. So yeah, absolutely. Do it whenever you want. Good questions. Okay, you're welcome, Eileen Jackson. You're welcome. All right, guys. All right. I need to go ahead and hop off. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Whether you join Plant Powered Life or not, I wish you all the best health for your life. And I hope that you've learned something new tonight that you can start to implement in your own life and help you have your best health and feel amazing. So yay, thank you. You're welcome. Looking forward to this. I'm excited. You're welcome, welcome, welcome. And I can't wait to get to know all of you who joined Plant Powered Life and see your amazing transformation. And you guys will be the next success stories. I know it. So thank you guys. Have a incredible night. And if you decide later to join, plantpoweredlifeprogram.com/enroll. And yeah, that page will have all the information on it. And if you use that link, you can still get that class bonus, cooking demo bonus that we talked about tonight. So thank you again. Wishing you all the best health and love. And y'all have a great day. Talk to y'all later. You get to the stop button. Takes me a minute. All right, here we go.